on locations throughout the world.
Standing passengers, please do not lean against the doors.
Picture goers, we bring to you new films of interest.
Chicago in State is next. Doors open on the left.
The miracle of the motion picture.
Please be considerate when talking on your phone or listening to electronic devices.
Chicago's a nice town if you're looking for pizza.
Welcome to 4 Stars, a Chicago Film Podcast, a podcast about Chicago films. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremy Martyr.
And I'm Paco Alvarez, a journalist based in Chicago.
And today we will be talking with film critic and film writer, Cortlyn Kelly, who started the Art Idiot blog. We're going to be talking to Cortlyn about the Chicago International Film Festival, and specifically the short films within that festival, the City and State program. And we'd like to welcome to the podcast Cortlyn Kelly, local film writer, cool girl, and the starter of the Art Idiot blog. Welcome, Cortlyn.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Jeremy. Hey, Paco.
So
Thank you so much for having me.
We're ramping up for the Chicago International Film Festival. We've been watching so many films, and we're really excited to have you on, Cortlyn, to talk about the City and State shorts. It's been a week of us, cramming in all these movies, and it was really nice to sort of sit down. I watched these with Paco and watch these short films of these emerging filmmakers. What were your sort of impressions of the shorts overall?
I was shocked that they were able to, I don't want to say cram in 7, but to have 7 in a block felt larger than usual. I feel like maybe it sits around 5 or 6. So just one more. But I really appreciate the way that they were sandwiched. I would have maybe reordered them a little, but overall, I think it addressed a lot of relevant themes and ongoings, and not in a surface level way. I think each filmmaker did a really great job of being as intentional as possible with their subject matter.
I completely agree. Did you watch these on screeners or did you go to one of the events?
I watched these on screeners. I had conflicts during both. Did you also end up did you make it to the Sunday?
So we
Chicago
went.
History Museum?
We tried our hardest.
Was it sold out?
It was
Yeah.
sold out.
It was only standby.
Wow. It was sold out Thursday too.
Yeah.
So
Which is great for the filmmakers. We definitely tried to get in for that. And they were like, all right, there's standby and you'll get charged. So we were like, okay, we're gonna go home and watch these.
yeah. Okay. I'm glad you were able to access them via screeners as well. And something about watching a short on a screener at home doesn't feel as difficult as a feature length film. I don't know if you guys feel that too, but
Yeah,
something about a full length feature on my laptop just doesn't hit
I agree.
I wanted to. But something about a short feels very intimate in that way. And I did watch some of these in my bed after the Music Box Marathon on Sunday, and I really that intimacy that I have with it, whether it's because of where I watched it or the medium on my laptop screen or anything. I did appreciate that, but I also, knowing maybe they made them intended to be seen on the big screen, and I actually spoke with Texas Smith, if you guys are familiar with Texas. They are the director of Make No Mistakes, These Are the Glory Days, the last film, and Texas was just saying this is seeing these trans women on a larger than life screen, and I tried to be that's really empowering, and I just had watched it on my laptop,
right.
but it's I think that representation and seeing those being able to see them on a bigger format means a lot too. So
Yeah, I agree. So for everyone who listens to Cortlyn's take on all of these movies, just remember that Cortlyn had just watched Hellraiser 3 and It's Alive 3 and Paranormal Activity 3. I feel like
Now that you're saying all of that, what's with the threes?
I don't
Like there
know.
were,
Well, it's
yeah,
'cause-
that's so funny.
Is this the third one? Is this the third one that they named something? Because last year was
Oh.
like the Dream Child, and then this one's Dead in Light.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe it's the third iteration. I got to talk to
Oh.
Will Morris about that, if that was on purpose, or you know what? Sometimes things just line up like that, where
Yeah.
like horror people just love the third entry in a franchise because the first one's a classic, the second one's a misstep, and the third one they get it back.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's so funny. Yeah, so I'm fresh off of all of those, some Abbott and Costello.
Right.
I would say my first 12 hours were much better than every movie that you just named. Like that's where I got a
What were some
little
highlights? What were
lost
some
in the
highlights?
sauce. Some highlights. Let me go to my notes.
Yeah.
How far in did you make it?
I sat there for all 24 hours.
Oh, whoa.
Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So strong.
Yeah, I was there. Was I awake? No. I definitely hit a wall.
So for people who are wondering, the Music Box does a 24-hour horror marathon every year called Box of Horrors. And people camp out and sleep in the Music Box. People brought their jammies and their pillows.
People brought a cot.
Oh,
They
come on.
were like full on set up this year. And I was like, whoa, are you like purposely going to sleep?
I once walked in on a
Sipping
film
degrees.
programmer who did not program that series, but another Chicago film programmer who took a cot into theater 2 and slept during 2 of the movies.
That's
in the middle of the
hilarious.
night. So yeah, what were some highlights?
I would say, okay, so my first 12 hours were much better. Jason X at 12:15 is sort of where I started to be like, and that one, like I haven't seen a lot of the, what series is
Friday
that?
the 13th.
Thank you. I haven't seen like a lot of those movies, and so like launching into the 10th one when they're like in space and doing this whole thing, I was kind of like, oh, I was so into the fashion though.
Mm-hmm.
Of Jason X. Before that, Inferno I thought was really strong. Like visually it was so beautiful. I think, did we see it on 35
Mhm.
maybe?
The print looked
I
great.
thought that was really great. And then at 6:45 in the morning, I was awake for the entirety of Paranormal Activity 3. So
Oh, yeah.
that somehow is like a shot of
Is
espresso
that the
for
Ghost
me.
Dimension one?
Mhm.
Or is that post those?
I think it's the Ghost Dimension one. What happens in that one?
It's where like the boyfriend, it's back in like, I think it's like the 80s when they like
Oh.
were filming that one. And so it's like the boyfriend moves in with like the mom and her daughters, and he sets up the cameras around the house. And the little girl is like friends with Toby, and
Oh.
like, yeah,
The
and she's
Spectre.
like, Toby, stop. Yeah. And they're like, who's Toby? And so he's the ghost. So yeah, I thought that was great. Clear cut, the one that you're like, this one rips.
Yeah, exactly. I went in a little strong on
Yeah,
that
no,
bummer
but
of a movie.
that was really great. I really enjoyed that one too. Mr. Static I thought was kind of cool. I got like a film strip from it.
Mhm. The short
Which is
film.
cool. And the short film. That was really pretty. Yeah.
Let's use that as
Otherwise,
a
it was,
transition. You know, like
yeah.
the short films that lined the Box of Horrors were sort of sprinkled in here and there. Cortland, and Paco as well. Like, let's talk about the value of short films. Let's talk about what a short film
Yeah.
brings, and what the difference is to you guys between a short and a feature.
Absolutely. I know, Jeremy, we've talked about this a little bit before on like what a short can do, and then also like how sometimes like shorts can be, I don't want to say shoved to the side, but they are not the centerpiece or like the main attraction of a film festival. And I think that can sometimes be hard for like emerging filmmakers, because you have to find an audience that like it, I think there's easily attraction to existing audiences, but like for new audiences to take a chance on a short spot is less likely than like a feature film, especially at something where a lot of the feature films at Chicago Film Fest this year have so much buzz, being that they played at like a lot of other festivals leading up to this one. And to me, I still struggle a little bit, like the discernment between like a short and a feature. And I know like as I've sort of like dipped my toes into programming, understanding that like 30-minute shorts are like not the vibe. And that I think that's like really hard though, as someone who like wants there to be more like time or duration dedicated to like developing those stories, especially with like documentary shorts. I find it's like really hard to keep that within like the 10-minute and under time frame. So I would say like, the standard by like industry is like 40 minutes and over is not considered to be a short. Um, and I would agree. I'd say if you're at 45 minutes, 50 minutes, I'd consider that to be a feature. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, I mean, I'm just trying to think of like the history of like the short, and I'm not like super familiar with it, but it seems to me that like shorts are typically like either they're for like people to like like begin establishing themselves and like learning the trade, or like they happen more in kind of like academic and artistic settings than necessarily than like there's not, I mean, there aren't many shorts that like cross over into some kind of like broad appeal. And so I feel like a lot of shorts are either students or early filmmakers kind of like trying to establish themselves, or kind of like weird experimental works.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a real love for people who can embrace what the short form is trying to do. People who could tell a story quickly, and condense a bigger ideas down into one, as opposed to it being like a proof of concept or a dry run for a feature. If you really know how to tell a story in a short, like Scorsese's short, Close Shave, or
Oh, yes.
it's
I'm
so
watching the
excellent.
documentary right now.
Oh my god!
So,
Oh yeah.
The
yeah.
5 hour
And
one.
then, yes, yes. And, so it's been so great, like hearing him like speak on all of those, like just like knowing what he like once was. And like, I wasn't alive then, and neither were you. And so like knowing like he was that person like making shorts. And so I think that coming to light in this like documentary for him is like really, really powerful. And like how you're able to tell that story. I also, Paco, I like what you said about the experimental aspect. And I think about that a lot too, with like a lot of shorts I can imagine being included in like museum or gallery exhibitions. And I don't know if that's always, per se a filmmaker's aim for their like how they want it to sit within the creative world or whatever audiences they're trying to reach. But I really like that you mentioned that, because I think that's a way that they can broaden how it is remembered, or how the story like resonates, especially with in relation to like other mediums. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, a mentor once told me that shorts are about event and features are about character, and I really
Mm-hmm.
liked that way of viewing short films. That short films, no matter if it is more of a character study in your short, like there needs to be event. It needs things. A thing needs to happen to keep your attention. And in features, or, I'm sorry, yeah, like even if a lot of events, a lot of plots happening, it's about the characters. It's about developing your characters. Now, where that gets complicated, I think, is in that experimental world, where there are a lot of shorts that I've seen where I'm like, this is brilliant, and if I would have been forced to watch it for 5 minutes longer, I would have gotten sick of it. Like there just becomes a moment where you hit a wall with experimental work, where
Mm-hmm.
that's not all experimental work, but there is like, the short films of David Lynch. He makes sure to be like, if I'm going to do that grading sound design, that if it's in the feature, I also need to, weave in some more traditional character stuff. And I do think that is, an art to know when you've hit your limit with your audience.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Are there any shorts within the city state short block that you think are honing into this idea of like an event rather than characters really well?
Yeah, I would say that the first one that I wanted to talk about was Bailey's Blues, directed by
Mm-hmm.
Shiloh Tumo Washington. That's truly one where
Yeah.
I do think uh, the short format is so well utilized that this is about an interview, a conversation. It's that is the point of the short, is that it is this interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's a concept that isn't complicated by further machinations, or you need to set things up. You just dive right into it. So what did you guys think of Bailey's Blues?
I like the frame narrative of sort of it being like, here's this old interview from the 60s, like in France, and we're like kind of like recontextualizing it now. And kind of like the idea that the reason it's a short is because it was meant to be on television. Like I like kind of like the justification for its own existence.
Yeah.
Sort of. And kind of like the fact that it was trying to live in its time period by using like the medium of the time period.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the editing rhythms felt so real to that sort of style of documentary, especially French filmmaking.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed like the texture of like the film. I think it added a lot to like what was being said. And the music obviously of course was like very, very strong. And I think the drawback to like Bronzeville felt so like relevant for me. I'm currently wrapping up like a critics fellowship at Arts and Public Life. And in one of our most recent like salons, we each conduct a salon, and our focus was like on Bronzeville and the history of Bronzeville. So it was like really interesting how this film felt so relevant to that conversation. And I also want to say like it's playing at Black Harvest Film Festival. So for those listening, if you like are curious to see it, it will be playing in November at the Siskel. And I think the director just won like a big award at Industry Days like yesterday.
That's amazing
So
for
I
Shiloh.
think that yeah. And so I'm curious, like, I don't know if it's the same project that was like pitched where they won this award, but I think it's one of those things where it really, I feel confident that it can exist and it does not, I don't need it to be developed into a feature. I don't see that for the film. And I feel like I had another note. The the line that says like I leave pieces of me like out on that stage every night. I thought was so powerful.
Yeah.
And in a sense too, like I can just imagine like that filmmaking process, or like whether it's maybe you're not the director but the actor, and how you are leaving yourself like in roles constantly. It felt very true to just like the creative experience.
Yeah. That was so powerful, and I thought that it was so direct. Like literally the film does direct address. It sort of breaks the frame and does this, Brechtian, Spike Lee, we're gonna just talk right to you, which is awesome. And just like seeing Namir Smallwood, right, who's a Steppenwolf actor, up on that screen, he just has these sad eyes that burn straight through the celluloid, and it really affected me.
Yeah,
for me,
and to start the shorts block that way,
right,
Yeah.
right,
is
launches you into
yeah,
it.
it's like yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. What did you guys think of Madrina, the second short in the block? That was directed by Missy Hernandez, and it's about a conflicted woman who returns home for the holidays after 2 years of no contact. Under the leering eyes of family, she regains her voice in defense of herself and her autonomy. When she gets kicked out of Christmas dinner, she cherishes her one remaining connection with her godmother. What do you guys think of Madrina?
Was the godmother actually there?
I also couldn't tell.
Okay. I think that's my hesitation around how I felt about the movie is because I'm a little uncertain on if Madrina, the godmother, was really still there. And I think I'm going to assume that she wasn't. Like it was sort of like this, I don't want to say hallucination, but this like imagining of why she maybe is like severed from her family. They alluded to some other reasons about like, another like relative passing away who likely had like abused the main character. And I think really like not that it brushed by it, but in the sense that that's how the family wanted to treat it. They just wanted to like brush by it and move on, and that's not okay for victims. And so it felt like that was, her godmother was the last like true connection she had, the person who made her feel safe in those spaces. And then I was not perplexed by the ending as well, but I think just the going and leaving of more gifts to what I assume would be like the migrants being reflected. So the film begins with
Voiceover.
a
Radio.
voiceover like of a radio. Yeah, thank you guys. Of them discussing like how a lot of like migrants are being shuttled here from Texas after they were here from like Venezuela, which those like in Chicago know was like a very real thing throughout the summer of 2023-ish into the fall. So I think, yeah, the way it bookended that I thought was like interesting because then it kind of just felt disconnected from like the meat of the story.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I didn't understand fully how thematically those tied.
Hmm.
I did enjoy the conversation being not externalized between the godmother and the daughter. For me, like having them talk to each other without speaking felt very interesting and like, oh, that's the reason why you make this a short. You can have like this like magical realist moment almost.
Yeah.
For me, and where I sort of wanted more from it was I wanted them to tell us less and show us more. I wanted, if you're going to make your story about migrants, I wanted those people to be present, or at least you to learn about it in a different way as opposed to over the
Right.
radio. Or if you're going to learn that there was a pedophile in the family, maybe finding different ways to communicate that same information as opposed to one character saying it to another character. It felt a little on the nose, but I was affected by it. Like I did think, that is
Hmm.
a powerful thing to make a short film about. And the performances I thought were really key to that.
Yeah, I liked how other than the main character and the godmother, you don't see anyone's face.
Yeah.
Like it's all just like eyes
Eyes.
and other aspects of it. And it does kind of it does kind of evoke what it's like going into those really awkward family situations or awkward situations where you're like kind of beefing with other people.
Sure. Yeah.
You're just kind of
this
like you're very
uncomfortable-
aware of like the people looking at you and like the kind of like what other people are thinking and
Yeah. It evoked that pretty well. That
Hmm.
like nerve that like and so what did you guys think about the Chicago stuff with that? I think like we're sort of viewing all these things through city and state, Chicago, Illinois. Like Cortland was saying, like that was a real thing that affected the city of Chicago during that time period and continues, migration and continues to be in the conversation. What did you guys think about the framing of that in a Chicago context?
It felt hard, like without having like because I experienced it like every day, like in the summer of like when it first started happening, and like actively like walking to work and like walking by like these different encampments outside of police stations, just like in random areas of the city where it's like people were being shoved aside. I think it would be hard to grasp that seriousness of like what was happening if I didn't live here.
Mhm.
And that kind of also feels like such a Chicago problem, or like everything that is like created and rooted here is so like beautiful because of that. But I think it's hard to like make it clear to like non-Chicago audiences that aren't experiencing those things regularly, like what like the truth is. And so I think if I just had if I took off my Chicago hat and I was like a New Yorker, I don't know if it would land the same way, especially because like you said, you don't see them. And I don't see how that it was sort of like not portrayed any different than those who are homeless. And I think that like that aspect too. And also like that like Christmas time feel. I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but like by that time, like they were all moved into different places for the most part. So the tent style like of that just didn't. I don't know if that is true to their experience at that point. And I also, I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah.
But
And it does feel like they're making some sort of commentary about like the family itself is probably Venezuelan, right?
But I didn't get that at all.
You didn't get that at all?
No.
Am I wrong about that?
yeah,
They
and
seem like
even with like the main character, I
wealthy
wasn't certain.
Latinos.
Yeah, definitely wealthy.
Like
Okay.
wealthy Latinos.
Okay.
Yeah, who knows if they are actually Venezuelan, but making that connection between, those who have in the States and those who don't. I think that's what it's
Mhm.
trying to get at, but I think Cortland, you're right that there was something I was like, by Christmas, first of all, there would be more frost on the ground. And it would be dangerous to be living in these conditions. Not that people don't live throughout
Mhm.
those, but specifically this community was already moved inside.
Right. And I think there's like ways of the leaving of something is and like and like you're like filming it. And so I think that idea of like it is depicted in the movie. They're not like actively like having their like iPhone being like, here, I'm giving you like these things, like,
Right.
for content purposes. Air quotes on content for those that can't see me. Um and I think yeah, like it just felt like a little bit of like a disconnect of like I'm not sure like who that's serving
Hmm.
in the movie, if it's like for the migrants or if it was for like the main character and this sort of feeling a way to feel better after feeling isolated from like a family situation. So maybe that's the connection of like these people are possibly also severed from their family during like the holiday season. um and so trying to build that connection, but then I just think there's more ways I would like to see that connection being built.
Mhm.
And that's, I don't know, that's just not what the movie was,
Yeah.
so I can't hate on it for that.
And maybe like in a feature form, I know that maybe there's idea that this might be developed into a feature based on a few
Mm,
conversations I've had. So maybe with that
okay.
context, we can learn more about it. We can learn more about the feelings and the experience of the migrants. Because who knows? Maybe they open up the tent thing. They're like, I don't want these presents right now. Like, maybe there's
Yeah.
more than just making the main character feel good. But I think that's for the filmmakers to develop.
Right.
All right, let's talk about Debaters. Debaters is directed by Alex Heller. Here's the synopsis for the film. High school strivers don their best business attire to compete at a congressional debate tournament. Rightful cynicism from the adults in the room gets directed at Anubhav, a first-timer who's way out of his depth. This one was the clearest to me that this short film, I'm putting air quotes again, was clearly part of a larger feature that had been cut down for this competition.
Really?
Yes, this is by Chicago Media Angels is being developed into a feature
Okay.
film.
Mhm.
And to me, I'm just going to speak personally, was quite baffling as to why this film was included in the shorts program. It totally makes sense as a proof of concept and as a larger idea, but I wasn't fully connected to why this was a short film. Does that make sense?
100%. I have to agree, like, I thought it was strong in what it was conveying, and like the sense of like we're dropping into this event. It took me a little bit to catch on of like what the vibe was. So that makes a lot more sense of like knowing was cut down. And this is a very like odd comparison, but walk with me here. The the way that I feel more connected to the like Mean Girls final like math debate as like a city state
Hmm.
sort of segment rather than like this. I don't feel
Yeah.
super connected to this being under the city state block.
Yeah.
Um because I don't feel grounded in the state of Illinois or like the city of Chicago. And please remind me of the actress's name who
J.
is,
Smith Cameron.
yeah,
Jake Cameron Smith?
yes, thank
J.
you.
Cameron Smith. Um,
J. Cameron Smith.
it,
Outside of like knowing she's sort of based here, did she perform at Steppenwolf? Am I making that up?
she's
Um,
definitely has a Chicago connection. It's J. Smith Cameron, by the way.
Oh, Jay Smith. Yeah.
J. Smith.
Cortland, did you recognize who the guy was next to her?
Yes, but also no.
He is
Who is
Kenneth
it?
Lonergan. That is the director of Margaret and Manchester by the Sea and You Can
Yeah.
Count on Me. Um,
Oh my gosh. I was like, because his face looks so familiar,
it's so crazy
but
that they're in
I
the
could
short.
not place it. Yeah. Okay.
And
And so,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry to cut you off there, that it
No.
really felt like those were characters that we were just getting a glimpse of, and that
Mhm.
like I wasn't getting enough of who they were based on that one scene.
Mhm.
It felt like I was watching like an exclusive clip of this movie, which is fine. Like I might end up liking the movie, but like to justify it as short was difficult for me to wrap myself around.
Yeah, and I think the only Chicago connection explicit was that it takes place at Taft.
Taft.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out Taft.
Shout out Taft, I guess.
But yeah, I thought I liked the first half-ish of the short. I thought it did a good job of capturing how serious those types of debate kids take themselves. And like
Mhm.
kind of like the
And it
fact
was JV.
yeah.
It was a JV team. Yeah.
And like the fact that like it was such a tense experience for the main kid, and like even though like what they were saying is like kind of gibberish and like didn't really matter. I sort of feel like this short ends up like buying into how the kids experience it a little bit too much, and like the adults start taking it seriously. And I guess like maybe in a feature that would be
Mm.
funnier and like work more, but just like the
Mhm.
kind of ending of it with the adults like kind of like agreeing that the kid made a good point. I don't know, there's something about it that felt sort of contradictory to the beginning, which felt more satirical.
Yeah. And I just felt that J. Smith Cameron, I felt her character was sort of like weirdly mean
Mm-hmm.
to these kids who were like on JV and just like trying it out. Like I would sense that like a teacher in that setting would like recognize nervousness and nurture that a little bit differently. So again, I really see what you're saying on like we're dropped into this scenario where we don't have like an entire understanding of these characters. I don't even know if we learn their names. That's why we keep referring to them like as the actors' names.
Yeah.
And I also one note that I did make that I really appreciated was like the eventual like student solidarity that they had.
Yeah.
To sort of like help one another like through that like nervousness and like someone who was like a stronger debate student helping like the one who is still getting his chops and everything. So I really appreciate that because I don't know if we see that reflected a lot, or like I don't kids these days are different and I don't know if they band together in that way in team environments. And I'm saying that as like I just coached softball last season for
Right.
like a high school up north, and they were quick to like call each other out and
Mm-hmm.
not have that solidarity. I'm like, wait a minute, like you guys are supposed to be a team, and I appreciate seeing that here.
Yeah. I think that was where it was strongest, was the interaction between the kids. But
Hmm.
again, sorry, I said Chicago Media Angels. I meant Full Spectrum Features, which Chicago Media Angels might have a
Oh,
part of it,
okay.
but Full Spectrum is the one producing this movie. And I do think that it is, there is a chance that we will understand the J. Smith Cameron, the Kenneth Lonergan characters a little more under the, the framing of it being a feature, and that their characters have an arc. They soften on the kids. Maybe the kids have ups and downs, but this is a shorts program, and it was sort of, to me, least representative of the form itself. And I want to move on to the next one, if that's okay with you guys. Um, one that I thought pretty well, like, captured what a short can do, which was Your Tomorrow Will Be My Song, directed by Fernando Saldivia Yanez. In this heartfelt reenactment, Suni and Alondra discuss a return to their home in the Andes and what their future wedding could look like. Together, they contemplate blending their new experience in the U.S., contemporary beliefs, and traditional ceremonial practices. This was like an extended monologue. This was
Dialogue.
an extended dialogue. Yeah, but between each other. You're right. That's what words mean. Um, an extended dialogue between two characters. Wrestling with a concept. It's mostly one shot, sandwiched by some gorgeous photography at the beginning and the end of the city. But what did you guys think about this as a short film?
We went to the City and State event. I don't even know what it was. I guess it was just supposed to be a hangout. There weren't that many people there, but
they had NBA Jam. We played NBA Jam for a
yeah,
little
it was
bit.
really fun. We should have played
Oh,
it.
where was this?
It was
At the AMC.
at the AMC.
Okay. Oh, in the
The
lounge.
Yeah, the
lounge.
filmmaker lounge. They
Yeah.
also had free food. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
We should have been
Mm-hmm.
playing NBA Jam the whole time. Anyway, I saw someone who I recognized, and it was someone who I went to college with. He was 2 years below me, and turns out he directed this movie, Fernando. So I talked to him a bit about it, and I guess just some context for how it was made. It was the two people were playing themselves, and it's based on real conversations that they had, and sort of they worked with the filmmaker to kind of like condense the conversations into this extended monologue. And then he also told me that the shots of the city were from Promontory Point. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting way of doing the form of just like having that like extended dialogue between the two and having like the hair brushing. I thought it reminded me of, yeah, I guess like older, like almost like French shorts and stuff that are kind of like starting to establish like how, or like kind of play with cinematic like functions and like what we expect from a movie.
I think yes to everything you both said. And one of the things, it was interesting. So as I'm watching this one, I was like brushing out my hair, and
It's a
and
40x.
you can't, yeah, you can't tell right now, but like brushing out my hair is a pain, you all. And the way I think a lot of like Black Indigenous cultures like have that like communal act of love like through like hair, I love seeing like that being the sort of like connection between the two while they're also having a very intimate conversation. Um, I appreciate the ending of like them being like their, I don't want to call it costuming because that's like it's like a documentary more than them being styled, but like their a, attire like for the ending scene I thought was so beautiful. I don't know if it worked well for me on like how I wanted things to like resolve for the film, but I was really like enamored by this couple. And this I want to know, like I want to see them like return home and or return to like where they came from, and I want to see them get married, and I want to see all of that like play out. And again, I know that's not what the short is here to do, but I think being able to like reenact that dialogue and make me feel that way like says a lot about the like power of their chemistry, um and the sort of telling a different story of like something that like I'm not currently experiencing. I really appreciated that. Just like how relevant it feels to how a lot of people are kind of uncertain about like how to navigate what's going on in the city and in our individual lives as a result of like so many government ongoings. So I thought that was really, really strong. I'm curious about the title. Do you guys like do you have any like clarity or like details on like why it was titled that way?
I should have asked.
It's okay. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I just I'm not sure how they got to that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I think for me, while I respected the form of this movie, I wanted them to take that conversation that they originally had and then developed it a little bit more to be
Mm,
a little bit more of these characters telling each other exactly what's in their head and maybe complicating it, or even if it's love and we're on each other's side, like there being like a little bit more veiled or like subtlety between the conversations, because there was almost like full thoughts and conversations and then an end point and then another full point. Does that make sense?
yeah.
I was hoping a little bit more of like, the drama of life and letting things, come and flow. But that's the thing that like
Mm-hmm.
the shorts program, I'm thinking a little less critically on for myself, and I'm seeing it more as like, wow, like this person should be able to make a feature where they can have these characters exist within a world, or a little bit of money to flesh this, conversation out to be a more polished short or something, or for them to pursue filmmaking comfortably. Not as like like every film is, a proof of concept, but like we should be able to trust Shiloh to now make a feature film. You know what I mean? Like after making Bailey's Blues, like we should be able to trust, Alex Heller to finish Debaters. Like there is a trust that has been handed over to us where whether or not it works on its own merits is one question that we can critique. And then the other thing of being like, oh, I would really like to see Fernando make a feature film now.
Yeah. And I think too, not knowing like what sort of budget they were working, like I would have loved like just like a map graphic of like where they were talking about. Um, I just think that visual like always like helps me of like how far are they from like where this conversation is taking place, and like where are they like dreaming of this future to be.
Mm-hmm.
I know I can Google it, but like in the moment, I like would have like loved
Yeah.
something like that little addition.
The next film to discuss is Chasing the Party, directed by Jesse Comator. A night out in New York City goes in opposite directions for teenage best friends, Melissa and Stephanie. One gets the club fantasy of their dreams, and the other learns why it's not best to meet your heroes. Cortland, what did you think of this one?
I really love the choreography, like in the beginning.
Oh, the musical sequence?
Yeah, the
Oh
musical
my
sequence. Like
God.
I was so into it. I couldn't I didn't think it was gonna go there. After this, like, were they underage?
I think
They were
so.
underage,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
Yeah,
think
they
that was
were
the
like,
implication.
yeah, they were like fixing the ID in the car. And I think, was it 2007-ish?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
2007.
yeah, like maybe like just thinking of like knowing people who like did start going out very young and like having like that fake ID situation, like in the taxi cab, like trying to look older, and trying to do all of those things, I felt was really like took me back to a place of like when you are a kid and you're dreaming of like that 13 going on 30 vibe. Um, and so then again, like in that same 13 going on 30, like you go in the club and like everyone has this dance sequence and like somehow everyone in the club is like in on like every single move. I really like loved that. And then I thought it was interesting and like accurate to like when you go out with a friend and like having a friend that like doesn't check on you and then you like find yourself in like situation, but like your friend's not even like thinking of you because they're off in their own like world doing their own thing. Just like as a girl and as a woman, I think seeing that reflected and knowing the amount of times that like I was left at a bar because no one like bothered to check where I was or anything, like it all felt so like accurate, and like strong. But then like once we get to that like those like very like uncomfortable like sequence of her going through this like abuse or like sexual assault situation or harassment situation,
Yeah,
I think,
coercion.
yeah, and it was very uncomfortable. Like I think it was I was like, don't do it, girl. Like I really like wanted to like be there for her and like fight back for her. So it was really strong in being able to like evoke those emotions from me. Um, I wish in some ways, like, at the end of the night that it maybe like unrolled a little different. But again, like we also can't control like how that happens. And there's so many like tangents or iterations of like a story like this. And I think that this is an accurate version of one of them. So
Yeah.
yeah. What'd you guys think? Did you like the choreography as much as me?
Oh, that
Yeah,
ruled.
I loved that. It
Yeah.
kind of the kind of campy quality of like the first half of it, where it's just kind of like, yeah, it's like
Hmm.
it's like a movie version of what you imagine your first night is going to be out. It's like everyone's going to be dancing, everyone's going to be knowing, and you're going to like be a part of that.
Hmm.
And then yeah, maybe this was because I had just eaten some Korean fried chicken right beforehand. But the scene with Joe Swanberg playing like this creepy photographer, like almost like literally made me like sick to my stomach. Like I felt so horrible during it.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought it did a really good job of evoking sort of like the pressure you feel as someone younger, as like as a woman with this like creepy older man, and just like how you want someone to think you're cool and you're still not but you still want to keep your boundaries, and sort of like the tension between that. um and then yeah, I think with the ending, I thought it was interesting because like I feel like oftentimes like the worst night of your life can also have like good parts of it, or like or like it'll happen like during one part of it, and then like later you just have like a normal time at the end. And so it's like an interesting, I think it did a good job of showing how like realistically almost that would wrap up, like her friend not even
Hmm.
noticing
I
that
agree.
something happened.
Yeah,
Right.
I think like the way that we view our idols was really, really interesting. This film explored that in a really interesting way. I loved the spotlight on the people he decided to take photos of like if you're in one of his photos, like you're the next person, like you're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
remembered forever. And I love like Superbad, because in Superbad that night feels like this is gonna define the rest of our lives, and then Superbad just sort of ends and they're like drunk and hanging out and they're like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a next day and we're gonna go off, and that feels so true to life, where it's like in high school, everything feels like the most important thing. And if I don't go to the party, I'm not going to be considered cool. And if I'm not considered cool, then I'm going to be a loser for life. And all of these things of like the way that they're talking to each other really reflected and felt true to life of the way that teenagers talk to each other, especially back then.
Yeah.
And that coercive aspect of like a guy who's that age automatically gets your respect, and how much of a loser he is in real life. The reality of him, of what a fucking loser he is. They really captured that in a short period of time.
Yeah, like his dumbass haircut and like super tight jeans. It was really funny.
Yeah. So 2007.
All the clothes were hilarious.
And I think that's what's so hard too, like knowing like I want to like leap on screen and be like, no girl, like he's the loser, and knowing like you don't realize that until you are like older, and even in so many ways of like, well, you like gaslight yourself of like, oh, like, well, I shouldn't have done this, or like I like, you know, XYZ. And so I think that is so accurate. Like it did a great job of like really making the audience understand like that guy is the loser, like this is very weird. And just not even making it like muddy. And I think a lot of films recently that like especially like by like female filmmakers are addressing this topic, because you know like art is very personal, and so seeing that explored, whether it's like Ava Victor's Sorry Baby, or there's like one other that just escaped my brain, it'll come to me, but I think there's so many different ways in which we see this sort of portrayed. Or it was some shorts that I saw at Cinema Femme Film Festival over the summer at Music Box. It was like a Northwestern filmmaker. I'm not remembering who it is, but the way you can be sort of like overt or covert and how it like unfolds itself. Like, do we blur this out? Like, do we leave it ambiguous? And I think even though we all know it's sort of like what it's getting at, like the way that this explicitly like did kind of like take us through the entirety of that situation was strong, and also made me strongly uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next film. It's Just a Fucking Opening, directed by Josh Brannon, Camille Bacon, and Yusuf Buscetta. Do you guys know if it's Buscetta or Buscetta?
I do not, but I know Camille, and
amazing.
I know Jupiter Magazine, and the gallery where this was filmed at. So this feels very like personal in some ways, just like knowing everyone in the movie.
Right. So, there were so many faces in there that I was like, I know that person. I know that person. I'm just going to do the synopsis real quick. Up-and-coming artist Anissa is woefully unprepared for the pettiness and performative antics taking place at the gallery opening for her latest pieces. Everything but the artwork seems to take center stage. With an absent girlfriend and career-oriented bestie focused on their own priorities, Anissa is left to spiral alone at the end of the night. So yeah, Cortlyn, talk a little bit about your connection with the filmmaker and what this short meant to you.
Yes. So Camille Bacon, who's one of the directors and like producers, is the founder of Jupiter Magazine, and Jupiter Magazine was like an executive producer on this project, and they are sort of working towards changing the pacing and like existence of criticism within like the contemporary world. So as like a critic, I like obviously love what they're doing. It lends itself to being more arts focused, but also is very like multidisciplinary. And they've done like different activations rather than just always doing like traditional print, like a print magazine, like or traditional like writing that exists online. Like they have been like creating and producing different like events for these sort of engagements. And so I think with It's Just a Fucking Opening, they're really like tapping into something that critiques the artist experience rather than like artwork itself, or like the gallery experience rather than and like just what that is like as an artist. I think in my previous like work, I learned so much about like the gallery world and like what it means to be like a fine artist trying to make it in that sense. And it is like crazy, like how overwhelming sometimes it can feel to be like a patron who wants to go to an art opening, but you don't know anyone, and then you go, and then everyone's already talking, and all of that felt like so accurate. And I actually was supposed to be an extra in this movie, and I couldn't go, and I was kind of overwhelmed about like I won't know anyone, and like I feel like weird, and And I think there's so much of it that felt so real, to what it's like to sort of like put yourself out there and like have, you at the end, like you have the people talking behind your back. And I also want to shout out to Jada Amina, who was like a key actor in this movie, and she's the curator of Black Harvest Film Festival. And I think her every line felt so true to Jada Amina's like true like self, and how she's so like unflinching and genuine, and critical and thoughtful and everything too. But this idea of like they're having these like close quarters conversations, but the artist overhears them. And I think this idea of like the politicking, I want to make this quick intro, like really, really quick, but then not ever circling back to like finish the serious conversation they were having. And like, are you addressing what I need in this moment? There's so many things that this film like goes through in just 18 minutes, not even 15. And it feels so like real to like how I feel constantly in the like creative space. And that's not any fault to the community that I'm like around. It's just sort of like what happens. And I don't consider Chicago to be the most like cliquey place, as like I think this is a film that doesn't, although it happens in Chicago, like it does feel true to like a New York or an LA gallery experience too. So I kind of appreciate that like universal aspect to it. But
And
what do you guys think?
in those art spaces, I do feel like it is a lot of transplants. It's a lot of people coming in and bringing their community's art experience. It's not just like Chicago people getting together and making art together. It's like an SAIC space, or there's different people coming in with different ideas of what art is and how to talk about it, and people who wield different power. I really liked the mixed media in this movie. I really love the way it begins and ends with the DV footage and SOV footage, and I do like I loved the way that lighting interacted with this movie, and the way that they sort of edited stuff together. I was really impressed by the way that looked.
Yeah, I loved the DV and the opening, which is I guess the point of view of like the artist's like performance, but just like the really like heavy breathing with like the weird like digital video. It was so creepy. I enjoyed it. Wait, you said that you know where this gallery is. Where is it?
Yeah, it's on Chicago Avenue. It's called Tala Gallery, or I think it's just called Tala. But my friend Francine is the owner and curator of it, and she's super cool. She also plays one of the actresses in the movie, and then her partner, who's like one of my favorite DJs in Chicago, Bless Tonio, is the DJ in the movie. And so, yeah, it feels like it's so funny, like knowing after being laid off, lol, from my job, where where I like met all of these people. But these are the folks who like I have continued relationships with, even though I like don't work in that space anymore. And so it's hard to probably capture like that feeling of like that's not how they try to operate within the creative like industry and within the art world, quote unquote. But that it's still like really addressing like a hard issue. And I think one of the things that I don't know if you guys really like resonated with this aspect, but that this idea of like there was not the support of a partner, and then like the partner is sort of like belittling, and then we get like the iconic, the title of the movie, like
Right.
it's just a fucking opening. I think I wasn't expecting the tone of how that line would sit within the movie and like with the title. Like I didn't think it would be coming from the partner. And having this sort of like belittling tone to something that like means so much to an artist. Like I don't care if you are opening in like a garage with like a group show, or like if you're opening at some like blue chip super fancy gallery, like an opening is like a huge deal as an artist, like no matter how big or small it is. So to know that that was the tone of it, as if it wasn't a big deal, was like really like kind of shocking to me, because when I first like knew of this movie and I read the title, I didn't think it would be in like a put down way, but sort of like a making light of like why we should take ourselves less seriously. Um
Totally. And I do think like, making art and being an artist and putting yourself on display is sometimes a very selfish act, whether you want it to be or
Yeah,
not. And this
right,
partner that they're dealing with, it's not, the partner's not a villain in the story, even though
right.
they might not be reacting to their partner and isolating them further. Um, they're taking care of an emergency and a crisis. They're dealing
Hmm.
with something. And I liked that complexity.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how we are in the position of your main character there, and the camera is going into candid angles with red lighting, and it's so beautiful in the way that it's filmed. But it is this like isolating feeling of being like, I'm crashing out right now,
Mm-hmm.
and my rocks, the people I need to rely on, who are the best friend and the partner, are not there for me. It sort of
Right.
like sits this like somber tone, and like I really like what it says about criticism too, because everyone's like
Hmm.
talking about the work, talking about the herbs, talking about like the art itself, like in that beginning,
Yeah.
which is so funny, but then you hear it again
From her
from her perspective, and she doesn't even disagree with it, and that's even more isolating, of like,
Hmm.
I didn't even like my performance, or at least if I defend a part of my performance, I really like when she's talking about like the alchemy and the chemistry and stuff. um she's like, I didn't feel that one as much. And I want people to be critical. I want to be able to handle that, but I need my rocks, and there's no rocks around.
Hmm. Yeah. I could keep going, but
I
we
know
can move
it's a really interesting
on.
short. Do you know anything about
Yeah.
this, whether it's being developed into a feature or if they're working on something else right now?
So I know that there's a zine that accompanies the short, and I think it's like a printed, um, like physical like copy of some essays and also just different like annotations that influenced the making of this. I'm not sure if it'll develop into a feature, but I know that Jupiter is continuing on this idea of experimental criticism, as I would call it, and like that taking place within real life and not like on just on the page.
Love it. Speaking about mixed media and critiques and everything, let's talk about the next one. Make no mistake, these are the glory days. Directed by Texas Smith. While on tour for their sophomore album, emo band Home Is Where pulls up to venues across the country and provides moments of community celebration and freedom for their trans-forward audience, as well as themselves. Energetic performances are the bridge between moments of vulnerability for the two trans women who lead the band and the fans lining up to see them. Yeah, this was a collage documentary road picture film, which was very different than the ones we had seen before. So I was really appreciating the curation here from the programmers at Chicago International, for mixing in these different films of different backgrounds and different, you know experiences, but also different styles. And so when we got to this one, I was never bored throughout the process of watching all of them. I was like, wow, each one of these has their place. And this one was no different for me. I loved watching the road picture aspect. I loved the music and the weaving together the images with the music. So
I was just gonna say, I feel like I'm not a huge fan of emo, or I guess they're from Florida, but they kind of have a Midwest emo vibe. It's not really the type of music I like, but I really, despite that, I felt like the power. I thought the movie did a really great job of conveying like the power of their performances and sort of the feeling it would be like to be in like the crowd and watching them. And I like that it's not like a straight up concert film where each song is just like one performance of theirs, but it's like yeah, like you mentioned, it's like a collage of like all the places. It's like it kind of like combines them all into one thing. It's like it's almost like as if like this entire tour has been one long performance that they've been playing, and I thought that was really cool. And I like the use of different types of video footage, like whether it's digital video, DV, like to film the stuff, because it kind of reminds me of like what it's like to be at a concert, and like when you're like kind of outside the crowd and everything, like you can tell what's happening like from like a more objective perspective, and then when you're like actually in like the mosh pit and everything gets like crazy. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment of like this this genre of like music isn't what I like seek out typically, and that doesn't like take away from like the the purpose of like the film by any means. And I think where I really like understood and thought this like worked well was the like sort of like testimonials from fans, and even them explicitly like stating like they're not a Midwest like band, but this feels it feels very like Midwest. Um, and there's something about my either like whether it's in this like the bubble that I'm in or like the echo chamber that I'm in, something about the relation between like the like what I know to be like the trans experience and like that sort of like unfurling with like roots in the Midwest feels like I don't know enough to like really speak on that, but that feels something like I've seen like repeatedly or like have seen like online. Or like maybe it's because like Chicago's this like North Star is like a safe city for like queer folks. Um, and so I really appreciated like seeing that exist in a way that will, I can just see this being something that is like really important to like the canon or the archive for the future of not just the band, but for like queer trans people in general. Um, and yeah, I think something about the authenticity of those who were being interviewed afterwards was like really really thoughtful. And I agree, like I don't at all like really relate this to being a concert film. And I think the points like where the music is included, like it was very intentional and thoughtful about what lyrics were being used as a way to like drive the story along.
Yeah. I think that if this is a feature, it runs the risk of being hagiography. Like it's like hagiography. Wow. Botched that pronunciation.
Can you wait, can you define that for me?
Yeah, like you're overly praising of the subject, right? There's no
Mm-hmm,
criticism of the people at the front of this thing, right? There's like
mm-hmm,
we're putting them up on a pedestal almost. But in the short form, this works as why this band is important to these people and informing their
mm-hmm,
identity and forming the band's identity themselves and the trans experience. And at this time of instability for queer folks, at this time of real danger, and it's speaking to that. It's saying bite the hand that doesn't fucking feed you. Like
yeah,
that was powerful for me as a call to action or a you know
right,
a way to speak to people who are living through that. It's a less passive experience, and music and punk shows and emo shows and all these things, like that's a way to get those feelings out, because it's not healthy to
mm-hmm,
have that go back inward. And the celebration of life of trans folk who are still living and will be living in the future and will outlive these fascist bastards, all these things, like all that stuff was so powerful to me, and it was
mm-hmm,
impressive to see it in a short 15-minute film.
right,
So I really liked
right.
this one, and overall, I mean, I would just say like this was a good crop of shorts. Do you have any more thoughts about this film itself before I move on to?
No, I agree. This is a great selection of shorts, with the caveat of like the debaters not really being, or just debaters, whatever,
Yeah.
not being like a short.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I really, we really they hit every like possible like spectrum of experience, whether it was like race, class, gender, occupation, age. Like, yeah, I really think this was giving us a run for keeping our brain sharp and trying to like, experience a lot of stories. And what's the total time on this? Like an hour,
90 minutes.
hour 10? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Hour 30.
pretty impressive. Good movies. Cortland, have you been watching other films of with the festival? Do you have any passing thoughts about the festival itself?
I will say I have been watching a lot of other films at the festival with the caveat of the 24-hour break that I took. Um, I'm really excited about the coverage that I've been assigned for this like festival this year. I have like a Chicago dispatch and then like a Black Perspectives dispatch, and like those two things. As much as I'm like, no, like I want to write about other stuff, but no, like I feel so confident and like strong and like my ability to speak on like Black films and Chicago films. And like when they have like the crossover between the two, that's like even stronger. I know earlier we sort of like really talked about the opening night film One Golden Summer, which I love as like an opening night pick, but it was also difficult because I like want more audiences to like have access to see that movie. I think it screened one other time, but I know like what it meant for the city to like have that happen. Knowing that it also in the summer of 2014 when that was happening here was crazy. Like before we had like the World Series in 2016, like I don't know what it was like really banding us together. I guess like I don't really consider the Blackhawks to bring Chicago together. They're more like a suburban team, no shade, but maybe like a little shade, but like they like the
Yeah.
Stanley Cup's just like it's not the same. And
Hmm.
that was like this was something where I also didn't realize, I think, being like a teenager at the time, and like a very serious like softball player that was like traveling out to like the Orland Parks, the Tinley Parks, the Homewoods, to play like all the time. Um, Not knowing what they were going through from like a like racist, like the racism that they were experiencing. I think I learned like so much from the movie while also like I cried like multiple times throughout the runtime, like whether it was like hitting like a nerve that I didn't know I like had healed from or something. I thought it was like really beautiful, and we had our there's like one thing about the movie that felt a little iffy, but other than that, I think it was so great. And then get back, I'll let you guys speak on that.
No, yeah,
And
I think there was, a feeling in the city at the time that we needed something to rally behind. And I do think
hmm
bringing up the Blackhawks is really interesting because these kids went to a Blackhawks game and dealt with some really racist shit there.
right.
And as someone who was all in on the Blackhawks at that time, there was that edge always at hockey games of, is this person just going to spout off? And I think
Yeah.
the other thing that was going on in the city at the time was Derrick Rose, and that the loss of Derrick Rose when Derrick Rose got injured was a
hmm
true grieving moment for the city of something that where we thought we had another Michael Jordan, and we thought we were back. We were so back, and um, Cortland and I have bonded over our love of baseball and having, this connection to the city and what baseball means to the city of Chicago, what baseball means to Black folks, like that is really important to
hmm
talk about. And it is sort of baseball sort of swept to the side in terms of sports that mean things to the Black community, and it's just sort of like simplified down into like the Jackie Robinson, like breaking the color barrier. And yeah, that matters, but like
hmm
to young kids growing up and playing the sport, that they're not thinking about the weight of representation. They're thinking about recreation and fun. They're having a good time.
Right.
This means the world to these boys, and that joy that they experience. It was so nice to see on the big screen. At playing as like the opening night festival movie. It was
Yeah.
fascinating, and I loved that.
Yeah, and I think this like opportunity for those boys now men to like experience like stardom again, like in such a different capacity that isn't tied to like their athletic ability is like so great. And I think one of the things that really I'm so happy this was included because it felt so true to like how I still act now is like you can play baseball 6 days a week, but on your day off, like we're still gonna go play baseball in the parking lot. And that's something that that's something that like was so true for me. Like when I was an athlete, like I'm gonna practice 8 times a week, but then I'm also gonna go watch softball and watch Little League, like the Little League World Series, like all August long. And even now, like this is probably like not the best way to go about it, but when I like get through a 24-hour marathon, like that's like an accomplishment of like extreme sports version of like being like a critic or a movie lover. And even though I just watched 24 hours of movies, like I'm gonna go home and watch some more.
Yeah.
And I think
Mm.
like seeing that like love and passion reflected is not something non-obsessive people maybe always understand, but to know like when you are a kid and you really want something and you find so much joy in that, like this like I don't want to call it like a safe outlet because that feels like it's perpetuating the stereotypes that they were like breaking against, but um just like this really humble, honest, like innocence um, that we get to see in what these boys were doing. Um, and how it like really has stayed with them like their whole
Mhm.
lives, you know. I don't think like they said like this is still really hard to talk about in a lot of ways because they were treated like adults for something that they had no fault in.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I I like the scene of them as adults looking at like the other like kids playing and thinking like, oh, I wish we were playing with them because it's so much more serious for
Hmm.
them as adults. Which is funny because like when they were kids, it was so serious, but
Right. Yeah.
they still have this like nostalgia for it.
I think it's like underrated how much like Cortland sort of was mentioning like how important it was to these boys and their development, and that like the media narrative at the time was like that it was like this uplift thing of like, you know, out of poverty, which wasn't true. It was they were just
Right.
you know, middle
Like these kids went
class.
to Mount Carmel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think like there is a universal experience to how difficult it is to be a child that sport really
Yeah.
helps with. That like, you know, just because they were middle class or whatever doesn't mean that they didn't have struggles, mental health, how hard it is to be a kid, all these things that like it gets sort of like shoved to the side when you're just trying to be like, oh, they're just like everyone else. It's like, no, they weren't just like everyone else. They were their own unique and interesting squad of a team of kids, and the movie does let their moment shine, and the importance of the sport to them. It's been my year of baseball. I keep saying that, but it's true. It's been my year of baseball, and I like,
Yeah.
God, it really made me love the sport again. Despite the White Sox not being very good, it
Oh my gosh.
does
We can
not
get
matter to
into
me.
it.
It doesn't matter to me
No.
because I
And
went
I
to games again. You know.
yeah, yeah. And I saw you at a lot of those
Oh, we
games
were
without
Paco. I can't count how many times I went to a game and then I'd look over and Cortland would be there as well,
yeah.
taking
We're both with
score,
our
our
scorecards.
scorecards. It happened like 3 times throughout the
Yes.
season, and we didn't plan to see each
Yeah.
other.
that's funny.
Yeah. And then even on the days where I wouldn't be at a game and you would be at a game or vice versa, like just knowing like we had that appreciation despite the team being bad. And I was laughing while watching this movie because I was like, this is my October baseball because like
That's
I
so
don't
funny.
care. I don't care about the like current teams in the World Series.
Sure.
And so it felt really great to have that. Like this is like as close to October baseball as Chicago's getting. I
Yeah.
don't believe in the Cubs, so
I
like, I
agree.
don't care. I
I
don't
agree.
care
It's not that
about
I
what they
don't
did this
think that they're good.
season.
I just don't believe they exist. I just, you know.
Yeah, they don't. They're just like Wrigley Field. That's a real place.
Right, right, right.
The Cubs.
Who?
I don't know them, and so
Iowa's team.
It's a great concert
yeah.
venue.
It's a great concert venue.
I saw the Red Stars play there once. It was pretty cool.
Oh,
So,
that's sick. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sick.
is there any other movies that
Um,
you've been seeing at the festival, Cortland?
yeah. I saw a couple at Music Box. I saw Train Dreams and Testament of Anne Lee, and I think those were like very buzzy. And I don't have particularly strong feelings about either of them. Um, Another Midwestern, or like I'm claiming it as a Midwest movie, is A Brief History of Chasing Storms.
Good movie.
Yeah, I was really into it. I don't know if it's because I like love the weather or if I am like just really curious about this very serious like change in um I want to say the word ecology, but I'm not positive if that's the right word, but like
Meteorology?
of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Um Sort of like just like our landscape that
Okay,
like
sure,
our
sure,
like
sure.
the way our
Yeah,
earth is
ecology.
like yeah, people think that like the coasts are really feeling it, but like we are experiencing it within like our farm culture and all of those things too, like here in the
Hmm.
Midwest. I thought that was really
We
strong.
actually at Cortland we had an interview with the director Curtis Miller that's going to be coming out in the podcast.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Oh
listen
my
to
gosh.
that.
Cool. I'm excited. That's so cool. I saw True North, which I'll be writing about, and that was a like Canadian Toronto-based film about like race during like the 60s, 60s, 70s, which I think was interesting, like learning about, you know, Canadian Black people. I don't think I've thought too much about that experience before seeing that movie, but it's very reminiscent of that. And then Adult Children, another Chicago film that I will be writing about, I saw yesterday. And I don't want to say too much on it, but I do want to call out the fact that it was like we're in Chicago and they were definitely in like Deerfield
Yeah.
or like
Winnetka.
Naperville or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gray's Lake.
I was like you have a driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where do you
Huge,
live?
huge yard. No offense. It was,
Schaumburg.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep naming Chicago suburbs. Yeah, no, we don't need to talk too much about the movie. I liked the movie more than I thought I was going to. Based on the opening, I really felt like it understood something that's so empty about the Chicago suburb experience. Like there's something very hollow about that experience that like
Right.
that doesn't, it's not true for every suburb, of course, but that sort of specific experience. And
Mhm.
I thought the music was so awful. I can't stop talking about how bad
Oh my
I
gosh,
thought
the music was so awful.
So bad.
Thank you so much. I was gonna like reserve that, but since you said it first,
No, it's
like
so
I'm willing to
bad.
go in. It was so bad. And you know what sucks even more is that I was at the screening with a director Q&A and he was so excited about the music.
No.
He was so excited.
Okay,
And
that
I
says a
was
lot
like
about the
I was like
yeah.
yeah, I was like,
Mhm.
girl, I don't know if you want to be excited about that because
No,
it's
stomp
pretty bad.
clap.
It it ruined every serious moment, like
I liked the
truly.
acting. I liked
Yeah.
Hmm.
the interpersonal relationships. What do you think, Paco?
I really disliked it at first. I just didn't tonally, wasn't really buying it. It was kind of in this weird in between zone of like kind of wanting to be like a 2000s Sundancey throwback, but then also
Yeah.
being really like Hollywood in a certain way. Like there's like some of like the montage and stuff. Like it reminded me of like kind of like the 2010s post Sundance moment of
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And then, but I thought the characters were pretty well written, even though I didn't like the writing. Like I thought like the characterization was good, even though
The dialogue.
I didn't like the dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think I ended
Yeah.
up like liking it more by the end because I thought that the characters were really well drawn out and
Yeah.
I was convinced of what was going on.
I really liked the performance of the youngest actress. I thought she was so good.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Yeah, Ella Rubin.
Ella Rubin.
Ella Rubin.
I
Yeah,
thought she was
Ella
really good.
Rubin.
I'm looking forward to what she does.
Yeah, likewise. And I will say it was interesting because I love like a coming of age like story, and I love this is kind of one of the first films where I see a really like non-traditional family dynamic being portrayed. Um, and I didn't really realize this until afterwards, but like that's gonna be me one day. Like I have a 6-year-old sister,
Right.
and yeah, and so I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is what we're gonna be going through. I hope she comes to me for like such weird questions, but we have a I'm not growing up in the house with her. Um, so I
Yeah.
thought that was like unique and adding something for people to like think about. I also like with it when it anchored into this college essay, I was like, oh my God, fuck my life. Like
Dude, I
I was
hate
really
that.
I really and it like
It made me
I was
so
really
mad.
concerned.
You
Yeah.
brought up Ava Victor before, and a movie that I really like is Please Baby Please, but the all the stuff with the essay in that movie drove me crazy, like putting it up on the window and stuff.
You mean Sorry Baby?
What did I say? Please Baby Please.
What the fuck is that?
Very different movie.
I was like, no, I was like, I've seen Please Baby Please, and I don't remember like
That is
this
a
happening.
completely different movie. That was a Music Box Films plug. My bad. Please Baby Please
Yeah,
by Music
no,
Box Films.
I saw it at Music Box, and I remember being so perplexed by that movie because I was
Right.
like, it was my first time being more like experimental or like
Right.
it was like genre bending to me, and so
Yeah.
anyway,
No, that
sorry,
that
baby.
director actually has a new movie coming out with Juliette Lewis, where Juliette Lewis plays a woman who transforms herself into a chair, and people like her more as a chair than they did as a person. And that movie looks great. This movie's called By Design, and it's coming out next year. Anyway, weird plug.
Whoa.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry Baby has all the stuff with the essay where she like puts it up on the window and stuff. And that's stuff where I felt like this movie wasn't that kind of schmaltz or tone until that moment. And so I felt like thrown. And the college essay thing was like, this movie wasn't that level of corniness. And I guess like high school essays are corny inherently. I just don't think
Right.
you can ever frame a college essay as being that important. It's not that important.
Right. I don't remember mine at all.
Yeah.
And I think And I think that, we did mention like how in high school, like everything feels like the most important thing of the world in the world. And so
Yeah,
I like
that is
want to
true to
like
life.
understand, but then like, and then like, oh, that like monologue though, where she's like just speaking out what she was typing. I'm like, this is bad. Like,
Bad.
is this going to get you into school? I don't know. Mentioning that you have like an STD in your college essay is
Was
crazy.
crazy. I was waiting for the movie to recognize that, and it didn't. And I was like, "That's interesting choice."
Such a choice. Not something I would ever put out to the public in such a way.
Yeah, I do. I do kind of like. I don't think the movie did that much with it, but I do kind of like her as this like white rich suburban girl thinking about how like nothing has happened in her life and like not realizing that like the things that happen to people that people write good college essays about suck. Like you don't want those things to happen to you.
Right.
Like most of the time when someone like writes a really good
Yeah.
college essay, it's because something like horrible or like
They
they
had
come
cancer,
from poverty, like
or yeah.
yeah.
They mentioned her friend with leukemia.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, oh,
but that feels like such a high school thing to not
Yeah.
realize like, oh, like especially now, yeah, I don't know. It feels like such a high school thing to not realize like, oh, like I don't want to have a life like that.
Yeah.
You know? And it's only
Right.
really when you're an adult and bad things happen to you that you realize, oh, I kind of wish I just was like a regular kid in the suburbs and stuff.
I like that. I like the mom's character being like, "Oh, I spent the first 3 children apologizing for not being there, and I'm spending my time with you apologizing for being too there for you and,
Yeah.
and making your life too good."
Yeah.
That was I like that stuff about the movie. I don't know.
mhm.
So yeah.
I wish we had more of like the mom involved too, with like some sort of like reconciliation with her like other children
Yeah.
in some way, because it did feel like they were all actively going through like their like childhood issues that they have, and then we just didn't get any like resolve for them,
Yeah.
which felt hard when they like really were huge parts of the story that were so strong and like deserving of like a rectifying of whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cortland, let's wrap this conversation up. This has been lovely and
Yeah,
amazing.
it's great.
And I want to keep talking
thank you
all
guys
day.
again for having me. I
Uh,
know I could keep going. Are there any movies that I haven't seen that you guys have seen?
Oh yeah, we've been watching a few. Oka, you should watch Oka. That was
I
really
watched
good.
it. Don't tell me where I watched it because obviously you wouldn't know, and I barely know.
Not
At
Toronto.
TIFF.
Tiff, yeah.
Oh, nice.
What do you think of Oka?
Yep. Yeah. I liked Oka.
Yeah.
I thought it was like it's first time
Mhm.
film director, well, it's first time feature director, and is her name Carla?
Mm-hmm. What is her
Carla,
full
wow.
name?
Yes, Carla Badillo.
Nice.
Badillo.
There we
It is
go.
the US premiere of Oka.
Nice.
Oh, cool. I loved the ending.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was like this like surreal like element to it with like, and then like the stairs were very like not like Truman Show esque,
Right.
but
No,
like
it
yeah,
was
like
so like
yeah,
Buñuel almost.
Yeah.
yeah, and so I really like loved that, and I love like the exploration of like I have like my notes here actually from when I saw it. Can God change his mind about our destiny? And I was like, whoa, that like really sticks with me.
She was cool. She did a little Q&A afterwards. She was cool.
Yeah. Did
Cool.
she something that she brought up, which I think really opened the movie up to me after we watched it was, Oka is a board game, I think played in Spain and Latin American countries.
Oh.
And
It's a
so-
board game adaptation.
Yeah, so this is secretly a board game adaptation
Like,
movie.
all the characters in the movies represent characters in the board game.
Yeah.
Like there's a yeah, I know. It is like a
And,
game
like-
that they've been playing for like 1,000 years.
or hundreds.
Sorry, hundreds of years.
Game of the Goose?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and like it's like a so like the characters represent
No.
different versions of that. And Paco was like, "Oh, it's so interesting that it's like in the lineage of Clue
Yeah, and Battleship.
and
It's-
Battleship. Like it is a board game adaptation.
Wait.
Isn't that crazy?
Why is that not like marketed more?
I know, it's so
Is it-
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
They might mention it in like the description, but I think it was that really was like it made a lot of sense, like why there's like the journey and like all the characters like kind of passing by each other. I
I
don't
was
know.
like, this is so. It's so interesting to think of the Camino that they're taking as like literally like the Monopoly, like
Yeah.
around the board. Like, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Oh my gosh.
It was mostly it's so I mean it's incredible. That's her first feature film, and I'm really excited to see what she does next. It's really great to see. It's really great to discover something and just be like, wow, like I'm on the ground floor of this. Like I'm gonna like
Follow her.
yeah.
Yeah. I really liked sort of like the Lynchian sort of imagery of dreams, but it was so clearly not referencing Lynch. It was like inspired by it and then being like, this is what my dreams look like. They're very different. They're like these misty, desert vistas and like weird characters traveling down the road. I really locked into that stuff. It was really good. So
Yeah.
Cortlyn, just to wrap things up, we ask all of our guests this: do you have a Chicago restaurant or a place to eat that you recommend?
If you're going out for your birthday, because this is where I go for my birthday every year, I go to Armitage Ale House on Armitage in Sheffield. It is one of the hog salt restaurants, and so if you can't get into Armitage Ale House, which you probably can't because you have to set an alarm to get a reservation, I would recommend any restaurants within that family, which would be like Trivoli Tavern, Gilt Bar, Bavette's, all something for like a special occasion, I'd say. And my reason for recommending Armitage Ale House is because they have a sticky date cake,
Ooh,
and it is the best dessert in the world.
wow.
And it like almost trumps tiramisu for me. Like it goes like sticky date cake and tiramisu is a close second. But yeah, I love Armitage Ale House. Another different cuisine, I'd have to recommend 312 Sushi in 88 Marketplace. They have the best sushi in the city and it's so fresh.
These are great recommendations, and now I need to go because I haven't been to either of those. I love when someone introduces
Great.
something that I haven't been to, and I'm like, oh, have a new
Yeah.
place to try. Cortlyn, where can we find your work?
You can find me at Cool Kid Court on Instagram or at The Art Idiot. And also The Art Idiot is on Substack. It's just theartidiot.substack.com. And I also have a podcast called Kave and CK Screening Room, which is available on Spotify, all those things. And we're getting ready to launch season 4.
Nice.
So yeah, stay tuned for that.
We'd love to have
Thank you,
both of
guys.
you two on for a discussion on
It
a
would
Chicago
be a
film.
5-hour
Let's go.
conversation. It would-
Which
it would
Chicago
have to
movie
be
are
a
you?
Scorsese
Which
docuseries.
Oh, exactly. Which Chicago movie are you putting claim on?
I need more time to think about
Yeah,
it.
that's
Okay,
totally
yeah.
fine. We'll cut that out.
Actually, I'm just gonna say Love Jones because I feel like nobody's putting Love Jones up there in the way like it seriously has under like 5,000 letterbox logs.
That's crazy.
Or something like okay, that might be dramatic. At least it might be under like 10,000.
No,
Like,
it is
Bear
an
with Anyone
underrated
has logged
Chicago
that
movie. Such a great vision of
and it's
Chicago.
so Chicago.
Yeah.
It's
Agree.
yeah. What are you guys picking?
Well, that's our job, is to do it every week. But we'll
You're right.
we'll reserve Love Jones for you, and I would love to talk to you more about your work and all the things. Cortlyn is the best, guys. Follow Cortlyn on
Jeremy
social
is the
media,
best.
and make sure to keep up with all the writing and go follow the Art Idiot, because it is one of the best.
I'll mail
blogs.
you a postcard if you sign up for the Art Idiot. So
I get Cortlyn's
like
postcard, and
postcards.
it goes up on my fridge, and I follow all the screenings, and I like that it links to Google what's it called, Google Calendar, so that I can have that.
Calendar.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you. I try to be I'm trying to make everything easy as possible for people to put themselves out there and go to the movies. And I think to like wrap this up in the sentiment of like when we were talking about it's just a fucking opening, like I have never felt scared to go to the movies because it feels like an easier place to go and be by yourself, but also still being amongst other people. So the Art Idiot is here to support that. It's here to support all idiocy within creativity. And thank you guys so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Please be considerate when talking on your phone or listening to electronic devices.